All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today we're uncovering silent business killer. It's the kind of thing that's usually hidden away in IT basements or just buried at the bottom of a technical backlog. But make no mistake, this unseen risk holds the absolute power to bankrupt your organization's reputation and completely derail its future. We are talking about security debt. Now, what's really fascinating about this quote is that it highlights how security debt isn't usually born out of malice or even sheer incompetence. It's actually formed through good intentions. Teams unwittingly take out a high-interest loan on their own network just by making temporary compromises, maybe to get a product out the door quicker or to save a few bucks this quarter. But as with any loan, it eventually comes due. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. The hidden cyber liability. 2. Anatomy of security debt. 3. Real-world tipping points. 4. Calculating the invisible cost. And 5. Paying down your debt. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The hidden cyber liability. So, this concept actually originates from computer programmer Ward Cunningham all the way back in 1992, when he was talking about software debt. Basically, security debt is the accumulated risk you get from outdated systems, unpatched vulnerabilities, and deferred remediation. It is quite literally like a financial loan. When you defer your maintenance, you're taking on debt. And that debt, it builds compounding interest over time until it throws your entire organization completely off balance. And this is a really crucial distinction to make because a lot of folks mix up technical debt with security debt. While technical debt might just slow your systems down a bit and make your engineers grumble, security debt actively exposes you to catastrophic trust and financial loss. It's basically the difference between driving a car that runs a little sluggishly and driving a car that has zero brakes. Section 2, Anatomy of Security Debt. So where does this debt actually come from? Well, it compounds across 4 distinct buckets. First, you have technical and process debt. That's your aging infrastructure and those skipped patch cycles. Then you've got business and cultural debt, which is a massive issue. That's where leadership treats cybersecurity as a one-off project rather than a shared, continuous duty. Modernization debt happens when you cling to legacy systems. And finally, governance debt occurs when your innovation simply outpaces the guardrails you've put in place. Okay, but what's actually pushing those 4 areas into the red? Sure, tight budgets and legacy systems play a part, we know that, but things like unmanaged shadow IT, where teams are just buying software without IT even knowing, and rushed cloud or AI deployments act as massive drivers. They silently expand your attack surface while your governance completely lags behind. You're moving fast, sure, but you're leaving all the doors unlocked.
Section 3. Real-world tipping points.
What happens when this compounding interest gets called in by threat actors? Just take a look at the timeline for the 2017 Equifax breach. Honestly, it reads like a true crime story. A critical flaw was identified, but the patch was skipped, likely just to avoid a little downtime or save some effort. Well, attackers found that unpatched flaw. The result? 140 million records stolen and a $575 million penalty. Skipping a single software patch led to a $500 million tipping point. Just let that sink in. 241. That staggering number is the average amount of days it takes an organization to identify and contain a data breach. We saw this in catastrophic supply chain attacks, like SolarWinds, which literally went undetected for months. When your monitoring is siloed and your debt is high, threat actors can comfortably live inside your network for the better part of a year before you even notice they're there. All right, Section 4, Calculating the Invisible Cost. The cascading data here acts as a literal gut punch. Security debt rarely damages just one single facet of your business. It cascades. It starts out as an operational drag, just daily friction. But then it becomes a financial hit. In fact, global average breach costs are hitting $4.44 million in 2025. Then comes the reputational loss of trust, and finally a strategic dead end, where your innovation completely stalls out because your entire focus shifts to recovery. This brings us to the security debt curve, which brilliantly illustrates exactly how this compounding happens. Early intervention keeps your costs flat and totally predictable. But when you defer action, you create this incredibly steep, unmanageable slope. By the time you reach the peak of that curve, the debt has evolved way beyond just a technology problem. It dictates your entire business strategy and leads straight to organizational compromise. So how do we actually put a number on this so the leadership team understands it? We use the Security Debt Index, or SDI for short. It's a simple but incredibly powerful formula. You just multiply the severity, which is the business impact of the risk, by the duration, how long the issue has been ignored, by the velocity, which is how fast similar new issues are popping up. Once you do the math, you get your score. And this gives boardrooms a very real, tangible way to see exactly where they stand. A score of 0 to 25 means things are controlled. But if you're drifting into that 76 to 100 range, your visibility is lost and your digital liabilities are accelerating toward a critical, catastrophic bankruptcy event. You absolutely need urgent remediation. And finally, Section 5, paying down your debt. So how do you break the cycle of constant reactive firefighting? You shift to a deliberate 5-step continuous governance cycle. First, you identify the hidden dots across your audits. You assess the cultural gaps allowing the debt in the first place. You measure your SDI. You manage by actually prioritizing the fixes that protect business value. And lastly, you monitor the trends early so the debt doesn't quietly rebuild behind your back. To turn all of this into real action, you need a shift in operations, adopting a zero-trust mindset where you are continuously validating access and embedding security straight into your DevOps pipeline from day one are absolutely your best payment plans. Plus, utilizing AI automation for compliance routing is a game changer. Organizations that used AI effectively here actually saved an average of $1.9 million in breach costs. And finally, you have to frame this risk in business terms, not technical jargon, so your leadership team actually buys in. So, as we wrap up this explainer and you take a hard look at your own organization, you have to ask yourself, is your team truly moving fast to innovate? Or are you just running up a massive, invisible credit card bill that your business simply won't be able to afford when the inevitable breach happens? Seriously, what is the true cost of your next delay?